Hi there. When looking at cultural policy and practice in Australia, we are looking mostly at government actions in the arts sector. The arts have a long tradition of shaping our society and an important part to play in our future. According to Hull and Long, they help define and negotiate who we are, what we believe in, what we value, and what we aspire to. The arts inspire Australians and help us express ourselves to other people. The arts plays a central role in creating and maintaining culture and society in Australia. The establishment of a uniquely Australian culture has been something that the settler society here has been grappling with since the beginning. Our cultural identity is the set of beliefs, history, attitudes, artistic practices, and aspirations we share with others in the communities to which we belong. Usually this is something we grow up with from early childhood and absorb continuously from our social environment. But with people coming from all different cultural backgrounds, special effort needs to be made here to give an inclusive meaning to the ideas of being Australian. Many people, particularly young people, turn to music, film, dance, acting, fashion to express their ideas and feelings and explore issues affecting their lives, sharing their experiences with others. At the same time, we need to see ourselves as part of a global network of different cultural identities and aspirations. Our economic and environmental future depends to a great extent on our creativity and innovation. The arts are frequently the cutting edge of setting and changing community values and attitudes. They can provide a forum for reflection on community norms. Cultural events like the arts and sports can bring people together to provide shared experiences. In this way, they can bridge gaps between cultural groups and different generations, building community spirit in a multicultural nation. And the arts are part of what are today called the creative industries. Cultural and creative activity contributes over $100 billion to Australia's economy each year. The arts are also important international ambassadors for Australia. Here's a picture of the new home of the arts on the Gold Coast, established in 2018 to highlight Australia's artistic endeavours to capitalise on the influx of international visitors as part of the Commonwealth Games. The way the rest of the world thinks about Australia is to a considerable extent shaped by our films, performers, TV programs, music, books, and sporting success. Neighbours has influenced British images of Australia. Similarly, films like Crocodile Dundee changed American ideas about Australia. This is not new. From the early days of the colonies, the arts played a role in the establishment of a new nation. Visual artists accompanied Captain Cook and the First Fleet. The drawings and paintings they took back shaped the international image of Australia. From here, the first seeds of an Australian national identity were planted. For the first settlers in Australia, the arts were often seen as a way of maintaining some of the traditions and trappings of the civilisation they had left behind. While the colonial governments had a keen interest in arts and culture because this was associated with the development of cultivated people, in the early days, arts and cultural initiatives were not framed as specific cultural policies. The arts, nevertheless, played a central role in shaping a shared identity in Australia, but in most instances, cultural practices came from grassroots sources. The story of Australia, the point of difference that defined us from Britain, was the story of the Australian bush. Poets such as Banjo Patterson's Man from Snowy River, or Dorothea McKellar's I Love a Sunburnt Country, along with songs like Waltzing Matilda, Australia's best-known bush ballad and unofficial Australian national anthem, Henry Lawson was revered as the people's poet and the real voice of Australia, just as in Tom Roberts's famous paintings like Shearing the Rams. These uniquely Australian works of art began to give Australians an idea that they had something in common, that they were part of a community that was different from the ones they had left behind. To showcase these internationally renowned works, the various colonial governments established state art galleries with modest annual funds to start up their collections. This then spilled over into federation when the new national government supported the arts as part of its mission of creating a national culture right across the huge continent. An important part of this idea was to bring the people together in what Benedict Anderson calls an imagined community of Australia. This involved the creation of communications networks and the media, and then of the government sponsoring broadcast and tours of orchestras, theatre and performing artists. With a turn towards realising our own interests separate to the British Empire with the events of World War II, Australia began to also think more strategically about the development of its own cultural institutions. Concerns over the potential harms of the mass media came to the forefront in wartime, so the Commonwealth Government made cultural regulation a priority, including strict controls on the media. After the upheaval of World War II and with the arrival on our shores of millions of migrants from war-torn Europe, a desire to encourage Australian cultural production was recognised. The artist Sidney Nolan painted his famous series of works about the life of Ned Kelly in the late 1940s, and they became highly influential for new Australian painting. A change of government after this meant that not much happened on the cultural policy front, as somehow an investment in the development of culture seemed synonymous with socialism as the world descended into the us and them divide of the Cold War. Nevertheless, an emerging generation of visual artists, filmmakers, composers and writers started to explore Australian themes in their works. The arts had been instrumental in creating a sense of a unique Australian identity based on its unique landscape, its unique flora and fauna, and its uniquely Australian experiences, what it means to be Australian. This had been supported by government initiatives, but it would be some time until a state-sponsored arts policy would be the driving force of Australian creativity. We'll take a look at how that came about in the next pod. I'm Diane Colman. I'll see you then.